the Indianapolis Colts, who honestly at this point don't seem like it's ridiculous. It makes zero sense.
It's great.
They're currently a playoff team. They're currently the 7th seed in the AFC.
Dude, their schedule.
And they just beat the Bucs 27-20. Sorry.
No.
Let me just finish this intro and then I'll let you guys do your thing. They beat the Bucs 27-20, moved to 6-5. They're an above 500 football team. Anthony Richardson is out, and this was a team that honestly was not expected to be good by any means, and they're currently above 500. Shane Steichen is an elite head coach already, which is super impressive to me. Yeah, I mean, do we think the Colts end up making the playoffs? And I guess that's just my question. Do the Colts end up making the playoffs?
I'll say what I was about to say. Their schedule coming up is at Tennessee, at Cincy, versus Pittsburgh, at Falcons, versus Las Vegas, versus Houston. Those are all winnable games. I'm not saying they're going to win them all. They're all winnable games. Jonathan Taylor is out 2 to 3 weeks, I think they said, getting surgery on his thumb. But, like, look at how Zach Moss looked when he was out. They seemed unaffected by Jonathan Taylor being out.
They were better off without signing him.
Kind of, yeah. Their rankings on the year, they're 8th in points per game, which mesmerizes me because they have some stinkers in there. 8th in red zone scoring percentage. So that's great when you have a backup like Gardner Minshew, where you kind of don't know what kind of game you're going to get from him.
He's streaky.
He is very streaky. Their defense has, again, on paper, is not good. 27th in points per game, 24th in yards per game, but they find a way, man. And they have some ugly wins. Like, they beat the Patriots 10-7. That's like if you tell me that they beat the Patriots 10-7 and then told me they were 6-5, I'd be like, one of those has to be false. But if I'm looking at this schedule,
hey, I mean, 10-7 seems to be the Patriots' favorite score.
Yeah, one way or the other. Like I said, I think maybe they lose to Pittsburgh. They lose to what they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games remaining. They go 3-3. That puts them at 9-8. They go.
That's not good enough to make the playoffs.
But like I said, I rattled off those games. They could win four of them.
All right. The Indianapolis Colts are making the playoffs.
Oh, my God.
Love it. Tell me why.
And there's a few reasons why. Gardner Minshew isn't playing great football.
Nope.
He's not playing elite football.
Nope.
He's not moving any needles. No one's looking at Gardner Minshew as the franchise guy. But he's not making that many mistakes. He clearly is a locker room presence wherever he goes. We saw that in Jacksonville. We saw that in, the 2 games he started in Philly last year, and we're seeing that this year. He has complete command of the locker room as a quarterback. The guys are behind him. The coaching staff is behind him. Everyone is behind him. And that only shows in the confidence this team is playing with. You know, you have a guy like Michael Pittman who's having a really under-the-radar season.
Yes, he is.
You have a guy like Josh Downs, a rookie who we all know I was really high on, but consensus wasn't, he's like top 5 in pretty much every rookie receiving metric. Yeah. You know, you have Zach Moss, who had multiple games of over 100 rushing yards while Jonathan Taylor is out. Do I mention Jonathan Taylor, a guy who just got back for a few games? He's going to miss some time again, but hopefully he'll be back for the important stretch, the last few games of the season. The thing that moves me about the Colts, they're on a 3-game win streak right now. Like you said, they didn't beat the best of teams. They beat Carolina, the worst team in football. They beat New England, arguably the second worst team in football, and then this past week they beat the Bucs.
No, I could tell you they're the second worst team in football now, confidently.
The thing that moves me about the Colts during this stretch is their defense. In those games, they haven't allowed over 200 yards passing, and I know you're going against scrub quarterbacks, but here's the thing: look at their remaining schedule.
Yeah, that's
Are you moved by Will Levis? Are you moved by Jake Browning? Are you moved by Kenny Pickett, Desmond Ritter?
Kenny Pickett.
Without Matt
Kenny
Canada,
Pickett. Kenny Pickett, no Matt Canada.
Aiden O'Connell. Granted, you play Week 18, you play Houston. C.J. Stroud, we know about C.J. Stroud. That could potentially be the game.
That could be a winner
in. Right, that could be a playoff game in and of itself.
Winner in, yeah.
But those 5 games prior, Tennessee, Cincinnati, Pittsburgh, Atlanta, and Las Vegas, are any of those quarterbacks threatening to me? No. Against a defense that has proven to be pretty great against the pass. And now we'll go into my RBSTM stats. Over the past 3 weeks since week 9, 4th in defensive EPA per play allowed at a minus 1.36. In terms of dropback EPA, they're 3rd with a minus 2.56. The only teams in front of them are the Browns and the 49ers. That's the class of the NFL defensively. That's how great this defense is playing. You have guys all over the field. It starts with DeForest Buckner in the middle of the field, but you have a bunch of unknown guys. EJ Speed, as the Mike linebacker, is having a really good year, breakout year. Kenny Moore is arguably the best slot corner in all of football. Maybe Kyle Hamilton has a few words to say, but Kyle Hamilton doesn't really have a position. But I believe in this team because they're flying under the radar. No one's talking about them besides us. I think we're probably the only podcast who had them on their Week 12 recap this week.
Probably.
There were just a bunch of other storylines to talk about. But they need to get spoken about. They're, like I said, flying under the radar. They have a quarterback who's been flying under the radar his whole entire life, but seems to, like I said in the beginning of my monologue, he seems to just get the guys behind him and get everyone to buy in. And it's evident throughout this whole season. I mean, they started strong, beat Houston, beat Baltimore in overtime, beat Tennessee. You lost in overtime to the Rams. You lost to Cleveland by 1. Like, those are games that you were in. The only game all season where they really got blown out was the second one at Jacksonville. But, that's a division game. You played them semi-close in week 1. Like, that shit happens. But for the most part, not only have they won some games, but even in the losses, they've been pretty competitive. They're not going to go away. They're going to fight till that very last whistle. And like I said, I think their schedule the rest of the way, they can exploit the weaknesses in the teams they're going up against, and that could lead to some wins. Milk the clock, run the football effectively, and take care of the football like they've been doing pretty much all season.
Win ugly.
So, yeah, I believe in the Colts, and I think they're making the playoffs. I think in Week 18, Houston's going to come to their trap, and they are not going to take it over. The Colts are going to beat Houston in a win-and-get-in game in Week 18.
Love it. Why not them?
So, for me, 9-8 ain't getting you in the playoffs. And hell, I mean, it depends on a 10-7 record too. In the AFC, 9-8 is not getting you in the playoffs. So that's one thing. And you did mention that they've been phenomenal against the pass, but you also mentioned the fact that they really haven't played great quarterbacks, and they don't face a great quarterback. But another thing that this defense hasn't been good at is stopping the run by any means. They're currently 28th in the NFL in yards allowed overall for the entirety of the season, and they're 18th in yards per carry allowed. That's not good. And that ain't going to get better when you're facing teams like the Atlanta Falcons. And then obviously C.J. Stroud, when he plays them, is going to tear their ass up. So there are weaknesses, and they've had a very light quarterback schedule to this point. So I am expecting C.J. Stroud to beat them come Week 18. And I do expect the Falcons to beat them because their run game is as proficient as it is, and Bijan Robinson is finally getting touches, which is another little thing that I'm very happy about from this past week. But outside of that, I don't remember what the other teams were that you guys told me.
Game on the line.
Raiders,
You need a
Bengals.
drive to win the game. Who are you taking, Desmond Ridder or Gardner Minshew? I'm not saying that determines who wins the game. I'm just in a vacuum. Game on the line. You need a drive to win the game.
Probably Gardner Minshew, but like Gardner Minshew doesn't inspire any confidence in me either. Like, Minshew's cool, but he also did not have a good game. Like, he turned it over. Well, he had a pick. But, I mean, look, they won, which in the end is all that really matters. But this rushing attack is going to have to be dominant consistently, and there's some teams on this schedule that, are capable of stopping the run. And not only that, I mean, I don't think they beat Pittsburgh. I don't think they beat Atlanta, and I don't think they beat Houston. And those are 3 losses right there. Those are the 3 teams that I think end up beating them. And if that happens, I mean, what? Now you're 9-8, and you're not making the playoffs. You're
They
not.
do beat them.
Because
It's not a wash. They can beat them.
No, they can, but I think you are going to lose
Those
3 of those
teams
games.
aren't moving me. Like, in terms of, like, stopping the Colts from making the playoffs. The Colts could, like, their fate is in their hands.
Yeah.
I don't think they have to win out, but, like, they could go 4-2, go 5-1 over these next 6 and
Who
make
else
the playoffs.
is in the running?
Pittsburgh-
Who's right
oh.
behind them?
Oh, I have it.
Yeah, I want to
So
know.
behind them is Houston 6-5, Broncos 6-5,
Yeah.
Bills 6-6, Bengals 5-6, Raiders 5-6.
Okay, forget about the Bengals.
Bengals, Raiders.
Bengals are done. Raiders are done.
Bills,
Bills-
Broncos, Texans.
can go 10-7, and if the Bills go 9-8, I wonder who would. I guess it would be the no. Who would it be if the Bills went 9-8? Who the hell would it be?
Couldn't tell you.
Exactly. I don't know what that would end up being. I think it would come down to division record because they don't have a head-to-head.
So they play. The other thing is if they pick up win. So like I said, Houston. If they beat them, you said that could be a winning.
That's probably a winning in.
Sure. They play Cleveland and Pittsburgh, who are the 2 spots above them too. And they're not great. Like their defenses are great, but
So that's a tiebreaker for them.
those are I'm saying those are big games. If they beat
They already beat Cleveland, no? Have they played?
No,
Colts.
they don't play Cleveland twice.
Oh, Colts already played Cleveland?
They already played them.
Oh,
They
that's what I was at.
played
Yeah. Colts
Cleveland
played. That's what I
and
said. They
Pittsburgh.
played
Yeah,
Cleveland
my
already, and they beat them.
No. They're going to play Cleveland.
The Colts.
Yes.
That's a loss. They're taking an L.
Okay.
Even though it's fucking Dorian Thompson-Robinson. I'm sorry.
No,
they played them already.
I'm an asshole. They did play them.
Yeah, and
They played Cincy.
and Cleveland.
Yeah.
Cleveland beat them, no?
Maybe, probably.
Or did they lose? I don't even remember.
They played the Steelers.
They lost
though.
to Cleveland, correct?
That's my bad.
Who, the Colts?
Yes, in
yeah,
a
they
blow,
lost by one.
not in a high-scoring game. Yes. Okay. Cool. So Cleveland has a tiebreaker over them. That's a big deal.
Yeah.
If it comes down to like them two eventually being towards the end of the playoff race, I don't know. I don't think they're good enough. I really don't. I don't see it with this team.
They already beat Houston once.
Yes. Yeah, and
In
I think
Houston, right?
I think if they don't have a head-to-head with another team, it comes down to divisional record. So, at this current moment, what is their divisional record?
2-2.
That's not terrible. That's not awful. But they have a couple down. Yeah, they have a
play
couple more down the
Tennessee
stretch. Okay,
and
Tennessee
Cleveland.
sucks. Tennessee, they're
Yeah,
probably
that's
going
what
to
I'm
beat
saying,
Tennessee.
But they could beat Tennessee.
Um,
If they beat Houston, that's 4-2.
That's what I'm saying. The path is there for them.
It's just
Obviously,
like,
like the Bills. Like obviously, I think the Bills are a better football team. But am I taking the Colts versus Mickey Mouse schedule remaining, or the Bills who have to
toughest
play the
schedule in the
Chiefs, the
NFL, yeah.
Cowboys, the Chargers, and the Dolphins?
or the
too?
Texans, or who was the other team you mentioned?
Broncos.
Or the Broncos. I mean, the Broncos, they have 3 away games coming up that they're not favored in. Any of them, I don't think. So that's actually a pretty tough schedule coming
That's what I'm
up.
saying. The Broncos have you have the Chargers twice. They're
Texans,
probably going to split
Chargers,
against
Lions.
the Chargers.
At Houston, at Lions.
They could beat the Patriots. They will split with the Chargers. I think they beat the Raiders. That's already 3 more wins. That's 9. And then I could see them winning another one of those. I don't know.
It's going to be close.
It is. It's
like,
going to be a fun,
I really like the Colts' chances considering the schedule they have, man. None of the teams they verse besides Houston in Week 18 are striking any fear into me.
So you wouldn't be a little worried against, say, Pittsburgh?
That's like, that one's the top
For
one,
the Colts.
obviously. Out of the remaining teams, Tennessee, Cincy, Pittsburgh, Atlanta, Vegas, obviously Pittsburgh.
Either.
I'm not fucking moved by Atlanta. I'm not worried about them.
I don't know. With
I'm
the
sure
Colts'
it'll be a
weaknesses
toss-up in terms of like
who's home?
like the spread and shit like that. It's at Atlanta. I'm sure it'll be a toss-up of a game, but I mean, I like their chances.
Yeah.
They've proven this season they can win games like that.
Yeah. I don't know.
I'm moved by it. Gardner Minshew has multiple games over 300 passing yards this year, one of them being against that Browns defense.
That's one thing. If you get a flamethrower game from Gardner Minshew, that
changes everything.
Yeah, that's the whole game.
And he's more than capable of it. Obviously, he's
Yeah.
not going to be an elite quarterback
gonna
for
do
the
it
rest
every
of the
week, yeah.
season, but can he put together 2 out of these 6 games where he looks really good? Yeah.
And 2 other games, the run game takes over.
Right.
Yeah, it could have this. The
They're
script is there.
forcing
It's
turnovers.
actually crazy
Yeah.
that they are about it as close to the epitome of mid of an NFL team as possible. 24.5 points per game, 24.4 points against per game. Their expected win-loss is 5.5 and 5.5. Their SRS score is a .63, which is 16th out of the 32 teams in the NFL.
Amen.
And their strength of schedule
What do we
is a
say?
.54.
C's get degrees. Same shit here.
I guess.
Mid
I
gets
don't
you
think
in.
they make the playoffs, man. It's just that simple for me.